Nicotine is injurious to health. India Today has put together this program to underscore the same. Display of smoking or tobacco use is solely for representation. We do not support use of tobacco or vape in any form.
It was sold to you like a sexy product, something that you must use, something that's only going to enhance your image. To fit in, you had to do this. That's how tobacco was sold to you for decades and decades together, getting generation after generation hooked to this poison in different forms. Cigarettes, bidis, chewing tobacco, all sold to you like something that's absolutely fine, that's absolutely healthy, but that isn't the case. In this episode of Health 360, we are warning you against nicotine and tobacco addiction. I'm Sneha Mordani, and we are talking about this fatal addiction today. Have you ever felt hooked, helpless, unable to break away? Is that your relationship with a tobacco product? A cigarette, a bidi, chewing tobacco, pan masala, anything? We are telling you all about addiction, and there is science behind it. Why then is it so tough to quit? Take a look.
Do you smoke very often? Do you feel restlessness without it? Are you hooked to smokeless tobacco or chewing tobacco? What is it about tobacco that makes it addictive? Tobacco products are addictive because they contain nicotine. Nicotine keeps people using tobacco products even when they want to stop. Nicotine is a highly addictive chemical compound present in a tobacco plant. All tobacco products contain nicotine, such as cigarettes, cigars, smokeless tobacco, hookah tobacco, and most e-cigarettes. Nicotine is what keeps people using tobacco products.
Nicotine is a naturally occurring alkaloid from a family of plants called Solanaceae or nightshade plants. Solanaceae or nightshade plants are beautiful flowering plants, and their product range ranges from medicine to wines, including the vegetational or the medicinal crops, and including the tobacco. What is nicotine? Again, it is the element, it is the chemical, it is the composition of the cigarettes which keeps you smoking again and again.
Nicotine causes the release of dopamine in the brain, which gives people a good feeling. Over time, the brain begins to crave that feeling from nicotine, and people need to use more and more tobacco to get that same good feeling.
The nicotine itself releases the neurotransmitters in the brain. I'm talking about dopamine. So dopamine is released in the reward center of the brain, which helps a patient or the person or the smoker to feel good, to elevate the mood, to take care of the unpleasant atmosphere around. Also, it also releases adrenaline in some amount, not great enough to be documented or measured, but it increases the heart rate and it increases the blood pressure. So it is kind of giving you a kick. It is giving you a kick so that you can perform better.
It's the thousands of chemicals contained in tobacco and tobacco smoke that makes tobacco use so deadly. This toxic mix of chemicals, not nicotine, causes serious health effects, including fatal lung diseases and cancer. Some of these chemicals, known to cause lung damage, was also found in some e-cigarette aerosols. According to the American Lung Association, there is a three-link chain of physical, social, and mental components to smoking addiction. Smokers have a better chance of quitting and staying smoke-free if they address all three parts of the chain. First, physical. Smokers also build up a tolerance and physical dependence on nicotine, meaning they have to smoke more to feel the same effect. Talk to a healthcare provider about quit smoking medications that can help with these symptoms. The second is mental. The act of smoking is often a part of one's daily routine. Smokers tend to light up at specific times of day, when drinking coffee or driving, or when they're feeling a certain way, like stressed or tired. Cigarettes can become a crutch, almost like a steady friend a smoker can rely on. Proven methods to quit smoking includes identifying these triggers and relearning and adjusting behaviors through a quit plan. And then there's social. Many smokers develop social groups around smoking. People will head out for a smoke break with friends or co-workers. Smoking can also be used as a social icebreaker by asking, "Got a light?" being the most commonly asked questions. For some people, using any amount of tobacco can quickly lead to nicotine dependence. Signs that you may be addicted include: you can't stop smoking. You've made one or more serious but unsuccessful attempts to stop. You have withdrawal symptoms when you try to stop. Your attempts at stopping have caused physical and mood-related symptoms such as strong cravings, anxiety, irritability, restlessness, difficulty concentrating, depressed mood, frustration, anger, increased hunger, insomnia, constipation or diarrhea. With Sabah Ikram, Bureau Report, India Today.
Are you still smoking? Guess what? You're digging your family's grave along with yours. The science on this is crystal clear. That passive smoking or second-hand smoke causes a whole world of problems for those people who are not smoking but are receptive to this smoke. Infertility, miscarriages, problems during pregnancy and a lot more. Is there any reason that you should not stop smoking? Then tell us what that reason is.
I was a victim of passive smoking. My husband was a smoker. I was diagnosed with vocal cord cancer in 2010. They removed my vocal cords and thyroids.
Her music, calm, soothing, perhaps her only solace. But her struggles and her journey, one of unimaginable pain and regret. Regret for not understanding the risk of passive smoking. Nalini Satyanarayan never smoked a cigarette in her life, never chewed tobacco. But tobacco cost her her health, her voice, her sense of smell.
The stoma is a hole in the neck, which is where the processes of the valve is fitted between the food pipe and the windpipe. And I'm able to talk only by closing the stoma. I can breathe only through the stoma. I can't breathe through my nose. I can't smell through my nose also. But now, by my own initiative, I've learned to smell strong smells.
The risk of indirect nicotine consumption are many, but it is still a crisis that needs to be addressed better.
The exhaled fumes, the latent cigarette end fumes forms the second-hand smoke. And whenever a person inhales these second-hand smoke, this is called passive smoking. Both causes similar disease ranging from respiratory, cardiovascular, neurological, brain disorders, lung cancers and whatnot.
Passive smoking is breathing in other people's tobacco smoke. It can increase the risk of cancer, heart disease and many other conditions. There is no safe level of passive smoking and it is particularly dangerous for children. Toddlers and infant babies exposed to second-hand smoke are at a high risk of asthma, bacterial meningitis, cord death, middle ear infection and a respiratory infection. The World Health Organization says that an estimated 10% of tobacco-related deaths is due to passive smoking. 6 lakh deaths out of 60 lakh are due to second-hand smoke. The smoke that fills a pub, a house party, an office space, a restaurant that you get exposed to, but there is little awareness about passive smoking with many of us, intaking nicotine the way Nalini did.
So next time you smoke in front of people who don't smoke, be it your loved ones, relatives or friends, think. Because peril doesn't cease to loom when it comes to tobacco. With video journalist Shiva Shankar, Anaga Keshav for India Today.
Is there an alternative to a cigarette? Nicotine is addictive, and that is what is present in a cigarette. So how will that alternative not have nicotine? If cigarettes are harmful, how will the alternatives not then be harmful? That is the debate around vapes and e-cigarettes, and we are telling you all about it. Can there ever be an alternate to a cigarette? Can smoking tobacco be replaced? The opinion is divided right in the middle with the emergence of e-cigarettes and vapes. And how safe or unsafe they are is actually a raging debate.
Several models available in the market, none of which are produced in India.
In India, e-cigarettes got banned in September 2019.
None of which are produced in India.
The Union Cabinet issued an ordinance banning electronic nicotine delivery systems or ENDS. In its defense, the government said the move was to protect vulnerable youngsters from the new form of possible addiction, an assumption that's turning into devil's truth.
It became very, very important that effective legislation is brought in so that no new addiction can be introduced in the Indian market. And this is primarily to be able to protect the vulnerable youngsters who may want to experiment with novel products.
But is banning a solution? And is the ban even effective?
Ban could do a little to curb the impact of vaping. All such devices are easily available at neighborhood cigarette shops, and an easy search of buy vape online throws up plenty of options, plenty of websites where you can buy vapes online in India. Now, with added flavors and attractive designs, teenagers are the emerging consumers.
The pro-vape lobby in India has its own say.
A weird kind of a ban where use and possession is not banned, but sales and purchase and storing for the intentions of sale is banned. So I'm a volunteer with the Association of Vapers India, and I've been working with them since 2018 beginning. And we do it because this product helped us, saved us from a greater evil, and we want to just help others also make this transition. A person smokes for the nicotine but dies because of the consequence and the hazardous residues which are present in cigarettes, which are eliminated in electronic cigarettes. You're still getting your nicotine, but you're getting it much cleaner, purer. It's like having a nicotine gum. Why aren't nicotine gums banned? Because the person needs nicotine. He's chewing that gum and getting that nicotine. Instead of chewing that gum, if he puts in a vape mod to his mouth and inhales that nicotine in a vapor form, it's the same thing. COVID taught us harm reduction. We would wear a mask. Others would wear a mask. That did not guarantee COVID will not spread, but it reduced the probability of it spreading. It's the same thing. Switching to vaping does not guarantee you'll have a very long, healthy life, but you'll have a healthier, longer life than smoking tobacco.
Vaping involves using a device that vaporizes a nicotine-containing liquid that the user inhales. It is not without a risk. The evidence for vaping does not say that. It merely says cigarette smokers who switch would suffer from far fewer negative effects and live relatively longer, healthier lives.
Vape or vaping is the kind of smoke in which there is no local irritant to the throat. Whenever a person smokes, he's not only smoking the tobacco or nicotine. There are tar, benzene, toluidamide. There are a lot of other irritant which causes changes in the throat, irritation in the eyes and other things. This all doesn't happen with vape. Vape is very smooth smoke because it is free of all these irritants, but it is full of other adulterants like aldehydes, acetaldehyde, silicates, which is causing severe lung injury.
Vape was introduced as a harm reduction product in other countries, thus prompting less amount of study and research in the direction of impact of excessive consumption of ends products. In countries such as the UK, vaping is advised to smokers. The National Health Service in the UK says most smokers are misinformed about the lower risks of vaping compared to smoking. What about India, where the ban is ineffective? Vape, which is supposed to be a cessation tool, is now a trend that even kids feel proud to be following.
So in our context, it will become very, very difficult not only for users, but also it will create a very difficult situation for regulators if such products are allowed in our context.
1 in every 10 deaths around the world is because of tobacco. 267 million Indians are hooked to tobacco. Millions of people all over the world are dying because of passive smoking, of second-hand smoke. You can't look away. We're getting you the numbers of tobacco addiction and getting you this larger picture.
Tobacco is still the #1 cause of preventable death and is responsible for 1 in 10 deaths around the world. All heard and said, but why do we have to speak when figures alone are enough, making a point that tobacco indeed is the biggest epidemic ever? There are approximately 267 million tobacco users in India. Now, to break it further. Among adults with 15 years and above category, 28.6% of the population currently uses tobacco products, out of which 42.4% are men and 14.2% women. This isn't ending here. Teenagers are also in the race, as currently 8.5% teenagers aging from 13 to 15 years also consume some form of tobacco.
The next global adult tobacco survey, we might even see an increase because there is so much exposure which is happening.
21% of people from this age group are exposed to second-hand smoke in public places. But what are the health implications against just the numbers we are speaking of? Passive smoking alone kills over 1.2 million Indians each year in India. So if you think that you are safe if you're not smoking and you hang around people who do, you must not. In India, the challenges of smokeless tobacco, which many say is a bigger challenge.
OTT platforms are now even promoting so much of smokeless tobacco use and glamorizing it.
On global front, India accounts for 70% of the global burden of smokeless tobacco, and now that's huge without a doubt, as nearly 90% of oral cancers in India are attributed to smokeless tobacco consumption.
Smoking causes cancer from head to toe.
The immediate fallout on health is the growing cancer epidemic. 27% of all cancers in India is the most glaring health implication of tobacco.
India is the second most consumer and producer of the tobacco. Lung cancer gene is being activated by the air pollution itself. Then why do you want to burden your overburdened body and overburdened lungs?
The tragedy is that tobacco production and excise from tobacco adds to the GDP of India. Basically, more tobacco consumption adds more to the coffers. And somewhere in the middle, cost to health gets unnoticed. Let us do that math here. The total cost of tobacco equates to 1.04% of India's GDP, and direct medical costs equates to 5.3% of total health expenditure. And we rest our case.
Guess what most Indians hooked to tobacco are smoking? They're not smoking cigarettes. Most Indians are smoking bidis. Bidis are actually more harmful than cigarettes. 5 times more tar, 3 times more carbon monoxide. What about chewing tobacco? Who's talking about it? We're getting you all the details of what these products are doing. Unfortunately, the market for chewing tobacco and bidis is actually less regulated in India as compared to cigarettes. No surprises then that India is becoming the oral cancer capital of the world. This report is an eye-opener. It's the cheapest form of tobacco consumption, commonly available, and the ones in the business of its production are the owners of an empire. Bidi. Majority of Indians, about 75%, are using bidis and chewing tobacco. Just 15% of tobacco users are smoking cigarettes, and for the rest it's either smokeless tobacco or bidis, the most commonly and widely used tobacco product in India. Cheap and a largely unregulated market, making bidis accessible for all, even children. For many in India, particularly in rural India, it is a source of employment.
It's the cheapest form of tobacco consumption. Tobacco wrapped in a dried leaf, the bidi cigarette. While the smell of it swirls around us as we walk down the streets of India, it doesn't even cross the mind of the government to pick up a fight against the main villain, which is the bidi. Here's a cigarette and here's a bidi. And what's the difference? Of course, bidi is the more harmful one.
In spite of the threat it puts all of us into, bidis are still not being taxed as a measure to restrict or limit its consumption.
The issue is of employment, issue is of livelihood, and these bidi workers, Tendupata collectors, they are in those remote and undeveloped areas where there is a major problem of Naxalism also. So if they are put out of the job, this is going to create another big problem for the country. The government has avoided the tax on bidi just for this reason.
About 4.9 million people are employed in the bidi industry. This predominantly in the unorganized sector.
Bidi industry has no face, and it operates through the contractors and middlemen who exploit the women and children by not providing them minimum wages, by not registering them formally so that they have ID cards, and they so therefore cannot have the welfare benefits that the government has thought for them. And of course, this is an industry that encourages child labor, because the wages given to the bidi workers are so low that children have to forego schooling, they have to forego a normal childhood and basic entitlements.
The exposure to tobacco, nicotine, dust and other particles absorbed through skin and nasal roots endanger the health of bidi workers as well as their families. The WHO says bidi rolling is indeed an occupational health hazard.
They are exposed to tobacco fumes and they work in such poor working conditions. They suffer from tuberculosis, chronic respiratory problems, diseases of malnutrition, anemia, huge backaches, eye problems. So, you know, they, by the age of 40, 45, they become so unwell, their fingers become, the skin on their fingers becomes so thin that they are not able to roll bidis. So they actually become useless for the bidi industry.
Research also shows that filterless bidis are even more dangerous than cigarettes. Pan masala too a major reason behind cheek cancers, and so are other products like snuff. But all of these products escape the radar when it comes to strict legislation. That brings us to the end of this edition of Health 360. This is to also tell our viewers that Health 360 is now live on all of India Today's digital platforms as well. Every Friday at 5 p.m. we are Health 360 Plus on all of India Today's platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. So do connect with us. We'll take your questions with our top experts of the week on the relevant health topic. Also, do not forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you so much for watching. Do take very good care of yourself.